good morning. My name is Leslie Williams, and today's date is May 8th, 2013. The time is 8:49 a.m., and I am in San Diego. Boo! This is going to be an informative video, and on occasion throughout it, it will be a comedy video, because I like acting goofy every great now and then, in order to be able to keep my spirits up. Pardon my appearance, but I just woke up about an hour ago, and I've been taking care of I'm hiking in California. I'm saving for a mobile home. I'm a target of what is known as gang stalking, which is also called organized stalking. And it's not stalking by gangs. It's nothing but organized harassment that is utilized against the target in reference to, because it's organized crime in a system that's hosting this, managing it, protecting it, allowing it. You would not believe what I know. And so, because you wouldn't possibly believe what I state, pardon me, sorry, I just got still drinking some hot chocolate. Anyways, I'm going to fly right into the description of this video, and actually this is going to be one of the most important videos that have ever been made in reference to these expeditions. It is my goal and my intention and my aim to expose everything that I know in order to be able to help my fellow targets, potential targets, to inform the public, and to expose the criminals involved. And I'm just going to fly right into it as soon as I get done taking another sip of my hot chocolate and finishing the cigarette that I'm having with it. This is one of the very few luxuries that I have in my life, to be able to just sit back and have a cigarette with a cup of hot chocolate. Now, okay, so I'm going to fly right into these, to the purpose of this video. The purposes of this video is for informative reasons, to inform, to expose the truth. Because the organized crime that's in the system, okay, that's connected to even organized crime that's out in the community, including totally at universities, what we have to understand here is that people like me, we are literally and deliberately, with complete malice of forethought and direct criminal intent, kept isolated in these campaigns so that campaigns can continue in order for the motivations to be achieved. In other words, basically what they do is frame the situation to frame the result. And so what I do in turn is I have developed my own strategies in reference to catching these criminals, in reference to when they expedite their methods and tactics against me out in the public, and exposing the individuals in reference to their employment descriptions, how their employment descriptions not only aid and abet in these crimes, but how they're being used to protect them. Right now, let's see, I'm going to name a few past and current targets of this crime in San Diego beside myself. Victoria Rose. Now, I'm going to get back to Victoria Rose in a minute, because she's very also relevant in this, concerning these expeditions. Victoria Rose, there was this one woman, what was her name? I forgot it. So while I'm trying to remember it, I'll state the other victims that I know that are currently targets of this crime in San Diego. Let's see, we got Marie Sheehan. Google her name, cross-reference it to California and gang stalking. You'll see the petitions that are online concerning her. And let's see, who else? Sylvia Almarillis. Now, Sylvia Almarillis, she had some older videos online, and concerning the post office being involved in the gang stalking of her, Walmart's, and possibly how her boyfriend, she was suspecting her boyfriend was involved, concerning the organized stalking. And so Google and YouTube her. Those past YouTube videos, for some reason, were taken off of her YouTube account. So, there was another woman, she had her house taken from her. I believe it was in between 2006 and 2010. Hopefully I'll remember her name. I'm going to go ahead and fly right into the purpose of this video. But since I mentioned to you the woman by the name of Victoria Rose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you exactly something here that's going to be able to help you see the factual realities of these crimes. Now, before I show you this tidbit of information, I'm gonna help you understand something. You can go to Google and type in a gang stalking tech, everything you need to know. It's a manifesto of a manager of organized stalking crews. gang stalking occurs. He flat out states in the manifesto that what he is involved in. I think it's actually a she, but in my videos I'm going to illustrate it as a he. And he flat out states that he is a manager of gang stalking, and that when a target moves from one state to the next, because there's many ways they can ascertain if a target's moving, because the target is always tracked in real time in reference to their physical location, their internet activity, and their cell phone or landline communications. So all you gotta do is think about it. If when I was in Michigan and then I went to Connecticut, I was looking up my travel routes to get to Connecticut from U of M Dearborn Library, where I was gang stalked on a feverish scale, and where I caught a gang stalker harassing me on video after I was blogging about it, tweeting about it, trying to going to the ACLU concerning it, going to the WDIV downtown Detroit, because WDIV is a news station that covers the whole Wayne County area. I was being gang stalked in Dearborn, Michigan, Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, Farmington Hills, Redford, Michigan, Livonia, Michigan. Hang on a second. And all you got to do is go to Google and type in gang stalking or organized stalking in public libraries, gang stalking or organized stalking in universities, and witness the amount of Google generated responses you get to it, and the target's blogs concerning what they're writing about it. Now, right here, what we got here is Victoria Rose. Victoria Rose was documented, as you can obviously see, it's a documentation file by Victoria Rose. She was a fellow San Diego, California, and Chula Vista, which is in the county of San Diego, target of these crimes. And if you can clearly see that concerning her name, the location of where the crimes occurred towards her, and how remote neural monitoring was used against her. Also, she mentions clearly V2K, voice to skull. Just bear with me and you'll understand what all of this means. Okay, so what we got to understand here, and this appears to be her YouTube account, vrose2@yahoo.com. Now in here, everything that Victoria Rose, you can find this by typing in Victoria Rose, California target gang stalking. Make sure you look for the documentation file, okay? And that's it right there. So what she describes in this documentation file is exactly to a T, identical to what is described in this book. Electronic torture, electronic rape, technology, and gang stalking at the post office by a person. This is not the author's real name. Everything that is described in this book, okay, is literally described by this individual. 2 separate targets in 2 separate states. Because in organized stalking expeditions, what they do is use the same methods and tactics against every single target. Okay? Now stay with me. Now, and if you're probably wondering what electronic rape is, I've already made a video concerning that, and I'll probably make another one, but just trust me. If you go to the bottom of Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance, the very bottom of their homepage, you'll see 3 PDF links. Print them out, print each one out, and keep them. Now, the electronic rape has to do with, which is also what Victoria Rose described in her documentation file, has to do with what is known as the phantom touch. And that's where they're basically doing nothing but sending pressure waves to your private parts as a result of them knowing your physiological signals in the area of that private part. Yes. And this is where the technology comes into play at. You got to remember, the title of the book is Electronic Torture, Electronic Rape, Technology, and Gang Stalking at the Post Office. They are also involved in physical rapes as well. Now, this right here was written by a Michael Fitzhugh Bell, who was on Coast to Coast. It's a book. He was on Coast to Coast with George Norrie and a Roger Tulsis on 2/14/13, and that can be Googled and YouTubed. Okay, and the illegal microchip implants and microwave technology and their use against humanity. Michael F. Bell, A True Story. Okay, now the illegal microchips and the microwave technology is basically the same thing as this. Okay, and gang stalking is mentioned in this book extensively, and in this book, obviously, it's even in the title. Okay, now. There are literally, let me tell you something about this book. I just got it 3 or 4 days ago out of my post office box. Everything that he describes in this book, and concerning what he's talking about with the gang stalking, everything that he describes in this book concerning just the gang stalking alone has happened to me in the exact same identical way. Okay, now hold on a second. I gotta take off my sweatshirt. Now, in this book, I haven't wrote it down in reference to what page it's on yet, but he talks about how his apartment was entered, and the individuals who entered his apartment threw his blinds on the floor. Now, let's listen to this. On November 29th, 2009, I rented an apartment in Dearborn, Michigan, and I was gang stalked on a feverish scale. I even wrote a blog the very day at U of M concerning the fact that I wrote a blog right before I left U of M to go sign the lease at this apartment on 11/29/2009. Yes. And I make numerous notaries concerning about what I knew I could expect to happen towards me in this apartment, because I was being gang stalked all the way up to the second I signed the lease on a non-stop basis for years on end, every single day, everywhere I went. So I made some notaries concerning what I would likely experience at that apartment on Monroe Street in Dearborn, Michigan, and every single thing that was in those notaries came true. Every single thing. Then I ended up having to make police reports concerning them breaking into my apartment and throwing blinds on the floor, taking food out of the refrigerator and putting it on the counter, refolding my underwear. Yeah. And that's not including also the electronic harassment that occurred towards me and my electronics in that apartment. Now, gang stalking was already flat out caught in Dearborn, Michigan that was occurring towards me. Now, keep that in mind. He literally stated in this book that they entered his apartment and took the blinds off the windows and threw them on the floor. I have right now in my possession digital audio files on digital tape recorders showing me stating when I was in that apartment that they entered my apartment and took the blinds off the wall and threw them on the floor. Yeah. Now that you got that, listen to this. Go to Google and type in stalking and rape, is it happening here in San Antonio? Okay, I think that's what it's called. I got the print out in my backpack, and I've already made a video concerning this. Now pay close attention to this. Stalking, rape, is it happening here in San Antonio? Google that, and you'll run across a news broadcast that was broadcast on February 17, 2010. Okay? Now, in this news broadcast, it shows also, when you Google it, it will not only show the news broadcast by Ken 5 in San Antonio, Texas. Ken 5 is the news broadcast station that covered the story. Okay? Stay with me. Now, when you Google that, you'll be able to see a transcript of the news broadcast concerning 2 women being covered on that news broadcast that were being gang stalked in San Antonio, Texas. Now, do you know how I said they operate on the same methods and templates in every state? Because it's nothing but a tiered protocol of methods and tactics that they implement towards every target in every state. It's organized crime in the system that's managing these expeditions, hosting them, allowing them, and making money off of them. Now, so in this news broadcast, there's 2 separate individuals being covered in that news broadcast along with a John Hall. John Hall is all over the internet in reference to how he's advocating and exposing gang stalking and remote neural monitoring. YouTube him. His YouTube videos can be found, and he's been on Coast to Coast as well. Remote neural monitoring. That's the Victoria Rose. Now, in this news broadcast and the transcripts from it, each separate individual stated some of the things that has happened to them. The first one stated that her home had been entered and that the perpetrators opened up her doors and turned all the lights on. Alright? Then the second one said that a necklace was stolen and then magically reappeared. Okay? 2 separate targets talking about some of the things that occurred towards them. Both of them were raped as well. Okay? So, this is what we got to understand here, is that sorry, I was looking at my squirrel that I feed. Okay, so there was blogs online right now that were written concerning me, concerning two of my apartments, two of the previous apartments that the gang stalking was occurring at. And I'm gonna make a statement here real fast before I forget to say it. When you look at the remote neural monitoring file at the bottom of Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance, you'll see, when you open it up and look at it, you'll see how cryptographers or cryptologists are mentioned in the remote neural monitoring file. There was a woman by the name of Lee, okay, that stayed in the lower flat, that came and moved into the lower flat and stayed with a guy by the name of George, okay. She came from Texas. And the name of the apartment, I'm only going to say the first three letters, APP, okay? Well, as I was experiencing the gang stalking and the electronic harassment and everything else, guess what? I knew that she was involved because of something she did in reference to a alarm sensor that I bought, okay? So, what I decided to do, I didn't have a name for what was happening to me, was gang stalking yet. I just knew that I was being harassed at the apartment and along my routes. So I decided to engage her in a conversation when she decided to sit in the back porch one day. It wasn't really a back porch. It was actually where she was sitting in a lawn chair in front of the garage with the garage door open. So I made a quick snacky lunch, and I went outside and I offered her some lunch, and I sat and talked to her, and I said, so what do you do? I go, are you retired? She goes, yeah. I go, really? I go, what did you do? She goes, I was in the Army. I go, no kidding. I go, what did you do in the Army? She goes, I was a cryptographer. Okay. Now, in that same blog, that wasn't written in the blog because I didn't think it was, had no reason to suspect it was relevant because I didn't know what was happening to me. It was gang stalking, and I didn't discover remote neural monitoring until after I discovered gang stalking. I discovered gang stalking on June 9th, 2009, but I didn't discover remote neural monitoring until October 7th, 2010. Yeah, it's in a library when I was waiting for the ACLU to appear at the ACLU meeting that they were supposed to hold at 6 o'clock. So I was killing time at a library and stumbled across Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance's homepage. So I had no reason to think that it was relevant in reference to her telling me she was a retired Army cryptologist. Okay? Now, in a blog that was written concerning me, concerning the same apartment, statements were made in that blog stated that the perpetrators came into my home and turned on all the lights in every room and opened up all the doors. The same exact statement the first victim mentioned concerning being covered in San Antonio, that they entered her home, turned on all the lights, and opened up all the doors. Then the second victim in that news broadcast stated that a bracelet went missing and then magically reappeared. That information is also mentioned in the same blog, as well as a 2006 email I sent from the San Diego Point Loma Library to a prosecutor in Wayne, Michigan, concerning how things do not magically disappear out of your apartment and your backpack and then reappear at a later date. Okay? Both the blog was written and the email was written way back in 2006 and 2007. This news broadcast didn't come out until February 17, 2010. Now, in the same news broadcast, John Hall is covered in it. John Hall is all over the internet in reference to exposing remote neural monitoring being connected to gang stalking. Now, when you look at the remote neural monitoring file at the bottom of Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance and the remote behavioral influencing file, you'll clearly be able to see that brain stimulation, remote neural monitoring is nothing but where they're monitoring you neurally from a remote distance by blanketing your environment with microwaves and then interlacing on the microwaves radio waves. And these radio waves are then stepped down and modulated to interface with the brainwave activity of your brain, your physiological system, using the central nervous system as a conduit. And if you thoroughly look at the remote behavioral influencing technology file and the remote neural monitoring file, you'll clearly be able to see that this is a factual reality. It's undisputable. So why am I making this particular video outside of the statements that I've already made? Check it out. Brainwave frequency listings, cycles per second. What do we got here? Among everything like you would not believe. Alcohol addiction and drug addiction. Okay? Alcohol addiction and drug addiction. Now why am I pointing this out to you? Well, let me just put it to you this way. When, like, say that I'm going to say this skillfully because I want you to understand something here. I'm a very intelligent woman. I took electrical engineering in college for many years. I have over a bachelor equivalent degree in architectural drafting. I studied computer networking and computer science. I used to be head of the parts department for the largest privately owned computer firm in the state of Michigan back in 1990. Okay? And I studied the brain extensively for years because I wanted to be able to learn how to develop strategies to deal with my learning disability. So I know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay? Now what we got to understand here is this, is that I'm going to give you a metaphor, a fast story to help you understand what brain entrainment is. Go to YouTube and type in Timothy W. Bioethics Issues. He talks about brain entrainment and neurocognitive weapons, remote neural monitoring, and remote behavioral influencing technology. Okay? Now, I'm just going to make up a hypothetical person. Say if you got a person who just got a vacation check and a bonus check, and now he's on vacation because he got a vacation check, obviously. And then somebody he's working with who's involved, somebody that works at the same job that he's at, got his vacation too. And that person is involved in gang stalking, but the other person who's also on vacation, the first person, doesn't know it. So the one who's involved in gang stalking will call him up, he'll make friends with him at work, he'll persuade him to meet him like after work to go out to get something to eat or whatever, and become friends with him. This is called where they cleverly and creatively, through normal appearing means, develop social relationships with targets. And then as a result, trust is gained. Okay? Now, what this guy will do is that he'll call him up once a vacation comes about. He knows the guy's got vacation pay, and he knows he got a bonus. So he'll call him up and he'll say, hey, do you want to go to the casino? And the guy thinks to himself, well, I got a little bit of extra money right now. I just got a bonus. I just got my vacation pay. I got the available time to do it. And he thinks to himself, okay. Or he might even be remotely, behaviorally being influenced to agree. And I've already made videos concerning that. Now, so the guy thinks to himself, okay, I'll go. So the friend says, okay, I'll be over in 2 hours to pick you up. The guy gets up, he takes a shower, he gets dressed, he picks up his keys, the guy comes over, they go together in the same car, they go to the casino, and the guy wins. Okay, he's there for like maybe 4 or 5 hours and he wins, and he's excited because he won. All of that thinking, the thinking about going, the inner reactions he has while he's there, the emotional states and the brain states, and the motor cortex associated behaviors of getting up and going, the physical inner reaction of playing, the excitement of playing, the brain states, the excitement, the emotional responses, and the thought processes of it. I gotta win, I gotta play it this way, I gotta do this, these are all one neural pathway. The thinking, the brain states, the emotional feelings that are felt, and the physical actions, which are the motor cortex associated behaviors of getting up and going, playing, interreacting with playing, and then the excitement that the guy felt and the resulting thoughts that were thought as a result of winning. This is all one neural network. That neural pathway can be remotely neurally monitored and identified and marked using remote neural monitoring because it has a resonance frequency in it that was developed. Okay? And as a result, these criminals can stimulate that resonance frequency of that neural pathway and bring that thinking and everything that was involved in that neural pathway back into current consciousness in real time to get him to go back to gamble again. And when that's stimulated, it overrides all other conscious deliberations in reference to, well, maybe I shouldn't go today, I got stuff to do, or I can't afford it. Because when they stimulate it to keep it active on a time constant rate through a pulsated transmission. And if you could thoroughly and extensively research the remote neural monitoring file and the remote behavioral influencing file, you'll clearly be able to see that brain stimulation is mentioned, that when it's stimulated, it's kept on a time constant rate in reference to the transmission being pulsated. Yes, so the neural pathway is kept constant when it's activated and kept constant. So as a result, you cannot think about anything else. Plus, when it's stimulated, you have no idea it's being stimulated by a third party. You just start thinking to yourself, well, I'm thinking about, you just believe that you're having these thoughts again of going because you had the excitement and the belief that you might win again as a result of winning the first time. So, if the same thing happened in reference to somebody offering your child, your teenager, your husband, your wife, your mother, your sister, your brother, and so on, if they have had their lives covertly influenced, okay, by a third party through a respectable environment or a normal casual relationship, and that person offers that person drugs, that's a neural pathway. And with remote neural monitoring, they know exactly where these neural pathways are, the frequency to send to it in order to stimulate the cravings and the thought processes that are in the neural pathway to go back and use again. Along with alcohol addiction, and drug addiction. Okay? Yes. You would not believe what I know. Okay? Now, in the John Hall, in closing, I'm going to state this. In the John Hall satellite terrorism videos, you'll run across how his fiance, what they did was they used the microwave hearing effect, because they can take your voice print, like I'm speaking to you now, it's a voice print, and incorporate it within software. And then the computer that the voice print is put in will create sentences for psychological direction. Like I'm saying right now, I am going to go to Walmart. That's a sentence composed of words, using my voice to do it. They can put my voice print in a computer, your voice print in a computer, and then the computer, using artificial intelligence, and the person who's running it will compose psychological direction concerning composing words to make up psychological directing sentences, like I am going to go to Walmart, and then transmit that psychological direction into the target's audio cortex using their voice print. And as a result, the target just believes they're having their own internal thoughts about going to Walmart. John Hall talks about that, and that's what they did to his fiance. He says that if you're hearing voices that are not your own that are harassing you, then that's audible harassment. But if they're putting voices in your own head, in your own voice, like the voice you hear when you're reading, that's mind control, the microwave hearing effect. And since it's transmitted below, underneath the perceptual radar, which means you can't perceive that it's happening to you, you don't know it. And so as a result, you act on it. And she went to a place as a result of that happening to her, and she was raped by the gang stalking. And this is literally what they did. Okay? Using remote neural monitoring. I'm in San Diego, California. My name is Leslie Williams. The targets of this crime are also implanted. We are deliberately and intentionally, with complete malice of forethought and criminal intent, kept from any uncorrupted legal assistance. Yes? Prosecutors, DA's office, city's attorney's offices, police officers, all of these types of individuals are involved in these organized crime syndicates, including social services workers, social security workers, and Medicare workers. Yes. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, even police officers can be gang stalked. Go to Google and type in how the Hemet Police Gang Squad was gang stalked, along with some Riverside public officials. Yes. My name is Leslie Williams. I make these videos to inform, to expose the truth. So if they can brain and train you to go gamble or to use controlled substances, do you honestly think they can't brain and train you for prostitution, for neural enslavement, for human trafficking? Think again. Because they wreck every area of our personal independence and financial independence to throw us out on the street for this eventual exploitation. Go to Google and type in Erica Dean Gilmore, California target, and look for the Freedom from Covert Harassment and Surveillance documentation file she wrote, and thoroughly look at it. Thoroughly. I'm in San Diego, California. Right now I have a lawsuit in my backpack from Ohio, a class action lawsuit that was filed by a bunch of people that went and filed this class action lawsuit concerning how remote neural monitoring was used to human traffic them. The same technology is being used in India, and you can Google that as well. I'm in San Diego, California. If anything ever happens to me in California, I want to tell you right now, SDSU, USD, and UCSD intercepted all of my emails for help, and the San Diego Police and the District Attorney's Office would not make one police report or advocate or investigate these crimes that are happening to me, because they were involved in it in 2006 when I was out here between 1 and 37 days. And they're covering their ass because they know I got the email files to prove it. I'm in San Diego, California. Have a nice day.